we're having is Beth Gordon from Pace University and I, Christina Höppner from Catalyst IT. We are going to present on supporting ePortfolio implementations face-to-face and online. So the program has slightly older title in there, so don't get confused if we are first talking about face-to-face. And we thought about this session and offering it and sharing our experiences today, because a lot of times we talk about ePortfolio implementations and what we need to do in terms of content and bringing people together and devising a program. And so we just wanted to share our experiences on what we did in supporting those implementations in the different contexts of face-to-face, blended, and then also online. And so in the beginning, Beth will tell us her experiences here in the States with students and faculty, and then I'll share what we have been doing with teachers in New Zealand.
Thank you. Hello everyone, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I'm Beth Gordon, Director of Academic Technology and Co-Director of ePortfolios at Pace University. And I'm going to be sharing some information with you about how we support ePortfolios, online, face-to-face, and really blended. But when I say we, I'm not doing this all by myself. I'm doing this with the terrific help and support of Sam Egan in the front row here, and Linda Ansendig, who's moving further away, but because she doesn't want to be called on. But please know when I say we, we do this together, and with the help of eTurns. So we'll tell you all about. Okay, so the two main groups that we're talking about here today and who we support are students and faculty. And if you attended the keynote yesterday with Brett and Laura, you heard them talk about one of the big issues in terms of scaling up is being able to support faculty and professional development. And one line that Brett mentioned that I've seen retweeted a couple of times, he said, "It's not a plug-and-play technology." And I really feel that applies to what we're talking about here today. That's why we have a whole session about how we're using a variety of formats to support ePortfolios, because it's not plug and play like some other technologies, and that often leads to some frustration on the part of our stakeholders and users, because it doesn't just work instantly, it's not always intuitive, and so there's a variety of things that we're doing to try to make it easier. So the things I want to share with you today are how we support both faculty and students with a truly blended approach. I want to share a specific case in how I supported ePortfolios in an online course that I taught this semester using a combination of webinar and online modules. And then I want to share some plans that we have for the future, where we want to go from here. So our faculty support model is divided into these three categories. We really started with workshop days, those one-off or maybe two-off sessions where we got faculty in a computer lab and gave them hands-on instruction. We have had mixed success with that. We still continue to do it. There's still a need for that. But we find that without follow-up, it often doesn't go anywhere. So we've had much more success with a teaching circle approach. And again, Brett referred to this yesterday. Manhattanville has also done this. A year-long program consisting of a series of meetings for faculty in the fall semester, followed by close support with eTurns. The meetings consist of not only hands-on technology work, but a lot of discussion about the pedagogical issues, assessment issues. Do you have a question?
What's an eTurn?
Oh, an eTurn. I'm so glad you asked. An eTurn is a very talented and motivated student who assists us in our efforts. You might call them student aides, student workers. Might have been called interns in the past, but we call them eTurns because they support ePortfolio and many other projects as well. But we really use this model to help build our ePortfolio program. As probably many of you are in the same situation, we don't have enough full-time staff to support the project. And really it's become a labor of love for the few of us that are really dedicated to ePortfolios. But to ramp up, you really need that close support. And we've relied on students who really get it. Students who've used ePortfolios in their classes, students who've taken to it on their own. And we find that the spark in them is contagious. And they often do things with their ePortfolios that are more creative than even we would imagine. And so we find that by pairing them with faculty, we can spark a lot more creativity and make faculty less afraid of experimenting with ePortfolios, and that has led to a lot of our success. So our teaching circles, we held teaching circles for 3 years, and in that program, we reached over 100 faculty. And we found that this sustained approach with the workshops and meetings and discussions in the fall semester, followed by their commitment to incorporate ePortfolios in the spring semester, was very successful. We continue to follow up with this group, though, and we do notice that some of them, even after the successful teaching circle experience, do fall away. And so we continue to try to work with them, we survey them, we reach back out to them, and again, try to keep them connected to us and offering the support that they may need to return to ePortfolios. But what we do also, another challenge that we face, that you might as well, is that we have a high number of adjunct faculty. And so, yeah, here's someone say, oh yes. So, and that is a constantly changing number, and they're scattered, they're not always on campus, and may not be able to participate in a teaching circle format or a workshop day. So we have started experimenting with online orientations for adjuncts using Collaborate. That's a web conferencing tool, but you could really use any web conferencing tool to do this. And again, we find that by offering these online sessions during the day, evenings, different times, we're able to reach more people. And so this is kind of the approach we're taking to faculty support, many different layers and different ways to try to reach all of our faculty. In the same way, we're really taking a blended approach to student support, providing ePortfolio support in all of these ways. Our eTerns, led by Sam, have developed a whole library of online tutorials, static tutorials, video tutorials, customized tutorials for particular majors or departments. You name it, we have it, and if faculty requests a specific tutorial on how to do something, our eTerns will do that as well. So we've had good success with that too. We've also started building reusable learning objects that can reside, in our case it's Blackboard, but just think in your LMS, some folders, some content that can be copied from course to course and serve as a support for online or blended courses. We also do orientations, those workshops for our students when they come to PACE and through University 101. But again, those have limited success. We find that there's really this demand for that just-in-time learning. So even if we do a great workshop, let's say the second week of the semester, when the students go to work on their ePortfolio close to midterm time, they often don't remember what happened in that great workshop. Right. So we really have this need to be able to circle back, refer to the online tutorials for exactly what they need to do, have the modules in their LMS, and then also offer the webinars for them as well. Again, these live sessions, synchronous sessions that can be conducted through Collaborate or another web conferencing tool, and also recorded for the students that can't attend. So this may be hard to see, but I'll try to explain what this is. As I mentioned, I taught an online course this past semester, an online counseling course for graduate students in mental health counseling. And I've taught this face-to-face, blended, and fully online. This semester was fully online, and I've used ePortfolios in the past. But I really had my strongest semester ePortfolio-wise, and a lot of it I attribute to both this checklist and using Collaborate to support ePortfolios. So what I did is I provided a much more scaffolded approach to ePortfolios than I have done in the past. I think in the past I've assumed too much about logging in and changing permissions and really what should be happening week 1, week 2, week 3, etc. And by laying it out in this kind of clear checklist, it made it much easier for the students to execute, and actually much easier for me to evaluate, because this checklist was easy to transform into a rubric. And students that kept up with the work had a very easy time midterm and finals, because I use their ePortfolio as their midterm and final exam grade. And it really flowed smoothly. But during week 1, even though it was completely online, I had put in the course schedule that we were going to meet 4 times throughout the semester. And the first week meeting online was a tour of ePortfolio. And I was able to do a web tour for them, take them to ePortfolio, show them a template page of what their counseling page was going to look like. And then also show them how to change permissions, some of the things that have been stumbling blocks for students in the past. And again, combined with the links to the tutorials and the folders within Blackboard provided a nice complement of support for them for their ePortfolios. So I think all of these things kind of worked together and made for a much better semester overall, ePortfolio-wise. This is a, oh, thanks. Thank you. just to give you an example, this is one of my students, Daniel, his ePortfolio page, to show you, again, this was a fully online course, and I should mention that a lot of the students come to the class pretty skeptical. The course is about using Web 2.0 tools to support mental health counseling, and most of these students go into counseling because they're people, and they don't want to use technology, and they only want to work face-to-face, but they are taking an online course. So what I point out to them is, you know, some people used to think you couldn't learn online, and now look what's happening. And so what starts to happen through their journals, through their reflections, is initially you see that strong resistance. And then over time, you see them sort of opening their minds to the possibility of how you might use blogs or Twitter or Second Life or other types of technology tools to support, enhance, perhaps not replace face-to-face counseling, but certainly supplement it. And he had a lot of, he did a lot of reflecting. Daniel was an outstanding student who's going on to a PhD program in organizational psychology, so he'll be making the big bucks soon. But he did a great job with his ePortfolio, and what I wanted to point out here is the social pedagogy piece, which you've probably been hearing about in a lot of the sessions. What was great about the work that the students did is it wasn't just one way. They weren't making this ePortfolio for me. They were making it for the community, for the class community. And part of the requirements I had on that checklist was that they had to provide feedback to their peers. And that just prompted them to make better ePortfolios, develop their own. They got ideas from looking at their peers' ePortfolios, and it continued throughout the semester. Thanks, Christine. Yeah, I have one other quick sample to show you. Chelsea was another student in the class. You could see her, she shared her PowerPoint. Every student was required to create a technology plan, and they shared their plans through a SlideShare in their ePortfolio. They each picked a counseling setting of their choice. She was interested in grief and bereavement counseling, and she shared her presentation here. Again, I showed them all the steps of how to do this online through Collaborate. Then they received the checklist. They had tutorials to back up the checklist, and they were able to work with eTurn support as well. So having all those mechanisms made it almost foolproof for the students. There were still some students that ran into troubles along the way, but again, having all of these options, a truly blended approach for support, it matches the way we're teaching now, right? We're teaching in blended ways, and so our support for tools such as ePortfolio also need to have this kind of blend, I think, to meet students where they are. Okay, and eTurns. Someone asked about this early on, and I sort of spoke about what I was going to speak about here, but our support efforts would not be possible without our eTurns. I wish we had a full army of full-time staff, but we don't, so instead I have worked towards building this army of eTurns. I'd like it to be bigger and stronger. But they support, they lead, and they really immerse themselves in ePortfolios. What's so great is they're active with social media, so they're already thinking about new ways to use ePortfolio even before we do. And the students like learning from them. And it's a great synergy that happens between the eTurns and the faculty. Initially the talk is about technology, but then it quickly becomes a talk of making pedagogical choices based on the technology and what's possible. And it's certainly been one of the most rewarding parts of my job is getting to see these eTurns really take ownership of what they're sharing with faculty. And most of our eTurns, just as a side note, aren't computer science majors. They come from a variety of backgrounds, but they have those soft skills, or they're developing those soft skills that are so important. And many of them have gone on to greatness in a variety of fields, but harnessing the troubleshooting and the customer service skills they developed while working with us. And so we feel really proud about that too, because not only are they helping us with ePortfolio, but I feel we're really helping them to develop skills that really complement their education at PACE. And as we all know from hearing about NESE and lots of retention data, it's very important for students to work while they're studying and be able to make the connections between their work and their studies, and also have on-campus jobs. They feel more connected to their institutions. So for all those reasons, our eTurn program has been very successful, and I know Manhattanville has a similar operation, and I encourage all of you, if you haven't already, to look around your school for students to help you with your ePortfolio efforts. And as far as our plans for the future, I don't know if you can all see the flipped flip at the bottom. But yeah, Christina gets compliments for all the slides, by the way. Basically, just as I mentioned with the blended approach, we feel that our support model for ePortfolios must follow what's happening in higher ed and education in general. And you all know about flipping the classroom. Well, we think we should also be flipping our support model. And we didn't come up with this idea. Our colleagues from Solent University, Roger and Sam T, have talked to us about this. And their idea, which we're thinking about too, is typically we go in for a workshop into a class and the students don't know anything about ePortfolio. So you're staring at all the blank faces, you're trying to tell them all about ePortfolio, you're trying to get them to log in, you're hoping they pick it all up in an hour. Yep, exactly. So what we're thinking about is trying to front load that a little bit more, sending in advance of the workshop a short video that explains what ePortfolio is, perhaps even an assignment. Come with something ready to upload. And then that workshop really truly becomes a workshop. Okay, were you able to upload whatever we asked you to upload? Did you start your introduction page? What are the issues? And so that's something we're really looking to do, because as more faculty start flipping their models of instruction, it seems like support might be the next thing that needs to be flipped. We're also, as I mentioned, looking to increase our eTurn Army and be able to offer more close partnerships for faculty, because as I experienced this past semester, having close eTurn support made a world of difference, especially in the necessary follow-up or some little details. It can really be the key. And finally, we're also looking at trying to harness more social media tools to support ePortfolios. Sam is getting busy with Twitter, and we're trying to tweet out tricks and tips for ePortfolio use and updates about our recent upgrade, and other things. Because again, if students and some faculty are on social media from time to time, then maybe this is a way of meeting them where they are and sharing tutorials and other suggestions as a way of pulling them in. Because clearly the standalone workshops just have limited success. So we're looking to try to blend all of these modes so that ePortfolio really becomes part of our institutional culture. So with that, I will turn it over to Christina.
Thank you, Beth. Before I take you on to a 9,000-mile journey over to New Zealand, I'd just like to check with the next presenter if it's okay that we do a few more minutes into your session, because then we'll just stay longer for yours. Thank you. So now let's move from Boston, over there on the left, all the way to New Zealand. This is kind of the long way. Normally via the Pacific it's just 9,100 miles, but anyway, it is still quite far. And let's also switch a little bit of context, because we've heard from Beth about support of students and faculty at the university level. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on how we support teachers on myportfolio.school.nz. That is also a Mahara instance, like PACE uses Mahara for its ePortfolio purposes. And we have not really made a lot of customizations there. Use the product primarily out of the box. And what we are doing in contrast also to PACE is that we are having one instance for over 1,400 schools. So all the schools are on there and can talk to each other. So we actually have a really nice community of practice of teachers from different schools. New Zealand is small, widespread. Sometimes schools only have 1, 2, 3, or 4 teachers. Others have 60 or 100. And so sometimes you are the only support person of ePortfolios at your school. But because you all are on the same instance, you can talk to all the other support teachers and all the other people who do ePortfolios in their schools and get their opinions and get in touch with them. And so when we started with myPortfolio, there was not a lot of support. There was pretty much just an email address. Back in 2011, we expanded it to forum support, and we also had so-called myPortfolio taster sessions, which were 2-hour introductory sessions on how to get started with the software. So looking into uploading a file, creating a journal entry, creating your portfolio page, joining a group so that you can communicate with people. That worked pretty well, and we got people started. So we had a surge of people kind of joining myPortfolio. We went from 250 institutions within a year to about 1,000, 1,200, and that was all well. But what we saw was that while we had a lot of people on there, not everybody was using it a lot because they had the basics but didn't know so much of how to go on from there, what to do next. And so what we did was we thought of using other technologies and not traveling around the country, but using webinars to support them, because we needed to support pretty much everyone across New Zealand. And so we cannot really go everywhere because funds are short. And so what we did was we contacted our users via survey and asked them, what are the topics that you would like to know when working with ePortfolios? What are you missing? Which topics are of interest to you that we should talk about, that where we can help you expand your knowledge so that you can implement it effectively with your students or also with your staff at school. So while the Ministry of Education is paying for the webinar support, we didn't ask the ministry what they wanted in the sessions. We asked our users, and that's the nice arrangement that we have with them, so that we really always are directly in touch with the users themselves. And so once we've had our survey results, we made a selection of the topics, and they kind of matched also what we already knew, because we had been in contact with the teachers and therefore had also already formed ideas of what we would like to tell them, what we would like to introduce them to, kind of show them opportunities of using ePortfolios. And so altogether, these topics fell into 3 different areas. The first one was how to use ePortfolios with students. The other one was how to use ePortfolios with staff, so professional development, teacher appraisal, pre-service teacher portfolios, and then a third one was of course also around administration of the ePortfolio site, because our schools were responsible for doing some administration on the site, especially user administration, and so we wanted to enhance their knowledge there as well. So what have we learned from our webinar series, of which we've ran so far 2/3? So we are going to start with the 3rd part of the series with the remaining 7 sessions next week. We learned that it is good to ask the users, and that we do need to ask them in order to have a program that is valuable to them. What is also good is that we actually had people participate, because timing issues can be difficult and make it so that it's not possible for everyone to attend, and that the people who did come to our sessions also participated. The nice thing was that we used a platform where they did also get support from the ministry beforehand in terms of making sure that the technology works. So we didn't have to deal with a lot of issues in Adobe Connect, kind of trying to troubleshoot somebody's microphone or so. And the good was also that people appreciated the sessions and what they have learned, and are going back to the recordings and work through them again in order to gain some more knowledge from it. Of course, we also had some things that didn't work out so nicely, and that was our registration process is somewhat complicated in the platform that we are using, which is outside of Mahara. And so we tried to get some shortcuts in there, and then we used to have a feedback form directly on the other platform, but that didn't send out a link, so we couldn't link directly to the feedback. So we eventually just took it elsewhere and could send the link out directly at the end of the session, making it much easier, of course, for everyone to give us feedback. The not so good was also because everyone is so spread out and very busy. Teachers that we did not have so many, not as many attendees as we had wished to have, but that's primarily due to people having meetings and then not being able to come or having other things going on. And so that leads me straight into the tips section, because the most important tip when you do webinars, do recordings. They are really, really helpful, and we do have some statistics about the recordings, and they are being watched. Not equally, because some topics are more popular than others, but people do really watch these recordings, even participants who come to the sessions. Sometimes we have pretty hands-on sessions, so that they can go back and look at it again and see which screens we've gone to so that they can replicate it, and that has been very helpful. And yeah, definitely have an easy way of people signing up for sessions, giving you feedback. And what we've also did was set up one email account as support email. so that it didn't just come to me, but to another facilitator as well, so that we could share answering questions outside of these webinars that came up for registration or just follow-ups and so on. And then also what we did was share the resources. So we didn't just share the recordings, but also the presentations or any links that had come up during the discussion. So that was just a very brief overview of how you can also support a larger community than a campus community with webinars. But some of the tips that I've shared also came up at Pace University, or when you support just one campus, because oftentimes your faculty or students are just dispersed. And so that really helps to have a good program there, make resources available to them afterwards. And so if you want to know more about the programs that we are involved in, either support-wise or also in the way of how we are implementing portfolios, please feel free to contact both Beth and me. And if you are in the New York area, just a shameless plug, next Tuesday we are going to meet at Pratt Institute as Mahara User Group. And we'll also have an online way of participating, and that will also be recorded so that everybody can then again look into these recordings when they aren't able to make it in person to Brooklyn. Thank you very much.